Very much maths, stats, econometrics, microeconomics. That was my bag. So at Cambridge, I just became completely fascinated by the obesity epidemic because it was starting to take off, and it was starting to take off in the UK in the 80s and sort of then heading into the 90s. And I just fascinated by it because nobody wants to be overweight, let alone obese. And yet, I could see my mum had switched to lower fat products as I was sort of heading off to university, and then people started talking more about low fat, and the first sugar-free drinks started coming in, which were completely disgusting. Didn't taste like they do now. So the world was sort of changing around me, and I was very much of the generation that people can remember that there was one overweight person in your class, and you can remember who that person was because it was so rare. And then suddenly, by the time my mum finished school teaching, half the class was overweight. And it's sort of, how did that happen kind of thing. So I became completely fascinated by obesity because you smoke because you enjoy it. Apparently it's pleasurable. I've never smoked. I know we eat because we enjoy it, but nobody wants to be overweight or obese. And if it really were as simple as just eat less, do more, then we'd all do it. So it's my maths logic. It just wasn't adding up. So I became fascinated by it there, and it was just kind of in the back of my mind. I then went and had a normal career, proper job as my mum would call it. Went into management consultancy, then started working for Mars, which has got Mars Confectionery, Mars Pet Food, but it also had an electronics division, which is where I worked. Great company to work for, just, shame about the products a little bit. Moved from Mars to SmithKline Beecham, so I went from big food to big pharma, basically. So it kind of showed me from the inside how those sort of big entities work. But all the way in the background, while I was doing these jobs, there was just this ongoing fascination with why people overeat, why people are obese. And then I actually got the opportunity to write a book while I worked my way up to HR director at sort of a global level. And in one of the organizations that I worked for, I was on a training course. And we were all sort of making a commitment to what we were going to do to be different when we left the training course. Otherwise, there's no point having gone on the course. And I remember saying to the person that I was buddied up with, I've got a book that I really want to write, but I just know I won't because I just don't have time. And the trainer just happened to be walking past me when I said that. And the trainer said, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I've heard you talking about Big Brother, which was the TV show that had just come out at the time. He said, if you've got time to watch Big Brother, you've got time to write a book. And I thought, you're spot on, actually. And I just remember getting up in the morning before going off to be an HR director, just setting the alarm a couple of hours earlier, creeping down in the early hours, sitting in front of the Arga, writing and setting myself targets. And then suddenly, spring 2004, I had a book called Why Do You Overeat When All You Want Is to Be Slim? So that's kind of how the two careers went in parallel. And then about 2008, when the financial world kind of imploded, like many executives, I got the opportunity to leave the organization and do something else. And that's when I decided I want to see if I can make what I'm passionate about what I do. And that's when I left and started researching, writing, did a PhD, wrote more books, that kind of thing. And that's kind of what I do. It doesn't pay what an HR director pays, but it's just much more fun and rewarding and, just much more fulfilling, much more worthwhile.